Shotgun people. This is kind of an interesting video because I was kind of with the cop a little bit, and people don't understand how landlord-tenant law works. And as a cop, I dealt with this many times, and every cop deals with it on a daily basis. There's a thing that's called residency, and once you establish residency, you cannot just be kicked out. You have to be evicted. The law says tenants have rights, and once they get their little fingers into your residency, you can't kick them out. That's why I see all these single moms letting their kids move back in. I'm like, once you let them move back in, you're stuck. You have the choice to allow them to move back in. You do not have the choice to kick them out when you don't want them there without going through the process. And then they want the cops to come and go, he's not allowed here. He's trespassing. You can't trespass where you're allowed to be. Once you establish residency, you're allowed to be there. And usually residency is established if you have clothes, if you stayed overnight, if you get mail there, if you eat there, things that would a normal person believe they live there, that establishes residency. Once that's established, you cannot get rid of somebody without evicting them, going through a 30-day, 3-day notice, whatever your state requires to evict somebody, serving them after they're served, then you finally can call the cops and they'll remove them once it's approved by the court. This is just more, chipping away at homeowners' rights. I personally think if I own a home, I should be able to tell you to leave at any time for any reason. It's my home. But that's not what the law says. Let's watch this video and I'll point out a few things where she makes some mistakes. And I know the music is kind of irritating and you can't really hear, and too bad they screwed up with this music crap, but I'm trying to listen to what's being heard and pay attention, and the music's blaring in the background.
Hello.
Hi.
So we're getting a call from your son saying that you guys are kicking him out.
I actually just got home. He hasn't worn out.
This is very common for kids to call the cops because they're spanked, because they have rules, because they think they have property rights. Not only does she kick the kid out, but he's got a warrant. So I'm pretty much with her on everything she does here. I got no problem with her. I'm with the cop a little bit because he's right when he says the law, but he's wrong when he enters her freaking house without a warrant. Only 3 ways to get in the house, people. I say it over and over, and I keep repeating it, but I'm telling you. Consent, warrant, or exigency. If you can't justify those, an exigency is emergency, and that only allows an officer to enter to deal with the emergency. Prevention of evidence, fleeing suspect, somebody needs help. Other than that, you ain't getting in a house unless you got consent or a warrant. Now, the officer is probably going to claim hot pursuit in this. I'm going to explain why that's not true.
For his arrest.
Right.
Out of...
Possibly not doing court or something.
Yep, that's right. Yep, that is right.
He's calling us saying you're kicking him out of the house.
I just got home from court, like literally just walked into the house. It's been my sister, and he actually hasn't been allowed in my house because he did this the last time, and I had to do a well check because I was at work. So I did tell her not to open the door if he came back, if I'm not here.
Real quick on, a lot of people say, well, if they don't pay rent, they don't live there and they don't have property rights. Not true. What happens a lot of times is people will say, I do things around the house. I contribute. I buy food. There's no record of rent. Kind of like mothers that want to take money from the fathers and then want to go to court and say he's never given me anything and now he owes all this back child support, even though the father's been buying clothes, spending time, taking them out to dinner, etc. That, again, just more BS laws that strip away reasonable behavior from people, and it causes this need for government to come in and save you because you can't do anything lawfully without government, and that makes you dependent, and that means you're a stupid sheep, and that means the government can pass more laws to tell you You need them, and you don't have the right to do this. You don't have the right to drive. You don't have the right to own a gun. You don't have a right to kick your kid out. You don't have a right to discipline your kid. You don't have a right to keep your kid out of school. That's how government gets their tiny little tentacles all over you.
Okay, well, either way, he has a warrant out for his arrest, so you guys can deal with it. Okay?
So, as a mother,
Okay, I gotta go, okay?
So she says either way he has a warrant out for his arrest. A lot of people think that just because you got a warrant, you're going to get arrested. By law, when a judge signs an order, it is a court order to every peace officer within the state to arrest this person if they are contacted. Period. No ifs, ands, buts, or coconuts. That's what the law says. Now, I've told you in many videos, many a times, that, man, I hate the way freaking Facebook just moves shit all the freaking time. Hang on, let me get this on full screen so it doesn't do that. Okay, so I've told you many a times I let people go with warrants all the freaking time. And technically, every time I did it and every time a cop does it, they are violating a court order. When you read a warrant of arrest, it says this order is to any peace officer. Now, we're always told that if you violate a court order, you get arrested. You can, unless you're government. No cop ever in the history of police have got arrested for not arresting somebody after the judge signed an order to arrest them. I mean, it's just, like I said, I'd pull people over and there'd be 4 people in a car with warrants, and they'd all be misdemeanor warrants. And I'm like, I'm out there looking for felonies and real crime. I don't care about, I'm not going to spend all my time booking these guys on BS, failure to appears or whatever. Meanwhile, I'm out there supposedly looking for guns, dope, gang members, whatever the hell else I'm looking for, to waste my time booking them. So, technically, it's a violation of the law. But like I say, when government's allowed to pass a bunch of laws, government gets to pick and choose who they enforce it on and who they don't. Government never has to comply with the laws that they do. Politicians always exempt themselves. Judges and cops get limited immunity, which means they don't have to follow the law. So anybody that ever calls for more laws, more gun control, and more government, well, you're just tying your own noose around your neck. But anyway, let's get back to this.
so I'm pretty sure I know which warrant it is. It was for the incident a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Here, I'm gonna come outside.
He's not coming.
That's a mistake. She should have never went outside. She should have shut the door and stopped talking to him. I've said several times, don't talk to the cops. It can't help you. This cop is trying to lecture her and trying to tell her she can't do it. And to be honest, I don't give a shit. If I committed a crime, then arrest me. If I can't do it, then tell me what law I violated and arrest me. If you can't arrest me, I don't want to hear your shit. So she walks outside. Once you leave the sanctity of your home, you're in a public place. She was in a private place in her home. Now she's in a public place. When you step outside to talk to government, you give them ability to now to develop reasonable suspicion or probable cause to detain you. Once they detain you, if you try to go back inside, they can stop you and say you're obstructing their investigation or you were detained and you tried to leave. Then when you pull away, they can say you were resisting. Don't set yourself up to let government use their freaking rinky-dink toy laws against you and learn how to protect yourself. Don't come outside. This border of this doorway is a sanctuary from government. And they can only break this border with a warrant, consent, or exigency. If you don't give them exigency, they can't come in. They have to go get a warrant.
Going to flat for that.
Okay. It's not a warrant for that. It was a warrant today because he failed to show up for court. So let me explain to you, officer, what's been going on, okay? So first off, he's kicked my...
Explaining and talking to cops don't help you. I'm telling you, people, I hated when people tried to tell me their big story. I showed up. I didn't care about your big story. You can call me a big bootleg jackhammer or whatever. I usually showed up because I had a call or report and I was required to respond to the call and handle the call, give advice, determine whether it's civil or criminal, determine if I had enough to arrest somebody, and if there wasn't a crime, then I go 10-8 and I advise them that it's civil. This is kind of a civil call. It becomes criminal when you kick somebody out of their residence. So if I'm living with you and we're both in the same house and I come home on a bad day and go, you know what? Get the hell out. And you're like, dude, I own half this house. I pay half the rent. I got just as much right to be here as you do. Nah, hell no. Get out. And I kick you out and lock the door. And the cops come and I go, I don't want to hear it. I own this freaking house. I pay for it, blah, blah, blah. That person outside who pays half the rent has a legal right to that place as much as I do, and I can't do that. And people can't connect that when it's dealing with kids or when you let your son move back in or your daughter move back in, and then they end up stealing from you and they're committing all their crime. They're making your life miserable and they're using drugs and they're coming in all hours of the night and you can't control them because they're an adult, but you let them move back in. They have just as much right as if they're paying half the rent. Rick, that's not fair. I didn't say it was fair, you big dummy. Nothing is fair when you're dealing with government. So I'm just telling you the law, and she thinks if she explains it to him, her situation is different. And like I said, I showed up to many calls. I don't care about your situation. I got to ask questions and determine if there's a crime or if this is a civil matter. If there's a crime, I got to determine whether I got probable cause to arrest. Otherwise, I'll be more than happy to leave and head my butt down to the nearest donut shop and have me a nice chocolate glaze covered donut and forget about that I ever had to talk to you. Rick, you're just a big boot. Oh, be quiet, you big crybabies. You don't understand what it's like dealing with everybody's problems 24/7, listening to their crap. Listen to them tell you what the law is. Listen to them tell you that you don't have any training. Listen to them tell you that you don't know what you're doing. It gets freaking old. And I'm not saying this woman is wrong. I'm just trying to give you the other side on what the cop's going through when he's dealing with her.
Door down before. The whole entire thing. The other day I was at work and I can't leave work to come and see what's going on. I have small baby children here. And he did this to my door while I was gone.
Okay, here's where she's missing the point. If somebody creates violence and they do anything that makes you fearful, you can't evict them, but you can go get a restraining order. And being a woman with small children, if she's in fear of those small children and she shows me damage, if I was a cop, I'd have been, look, you can't kick him out, but you can go apply for a restraining order. If you say you're fearful of your protected children, which it sounds like you are, if you say that you can't control him and you think he's being violent, which it sounds like he is, I think you have enough to get a restraining order. Go apply for a restraining order. They will give you a temporary order. I will come here and enforce that order and move him out and tell him he's not allowed here till he goes to court and gets this restraining order removed. But that's not an eviction. Has the same outcome, but you have to know how to work within the law. The cop should have told her that and he didn't. He's kind of getting irritated with her because she's kind of like telling him he really doesn't know what she's talking about and she's got all the answers. She doesn't have all the answers. And most people don't. And most cops don't. Because government is this fluid waterfall that falls over a freaking cliff and nobody can tell where it's going to splash and where it's going to bounce and move and what flow. You just can't predict it. But you can kind of go with the norms and hopefully whittle your way through it.
So he has a warrant out for his arrest out of out of Adams County right now for failure to appear. And the judge specifically told me, I told her everything that happened as I'm telling you. And am I kicking him out?
What the cop isn't saying is, lady, I don't care if he has a freaking warrant. It's a failure to appear warrant. Nobody cares. Matter of fact, if I stop him, I can probably write him a ticket and have him sign a promise to appear and tell him to go take care of the warrant. Better yet, we may have a policy in our agency that says we're not going to book misdemeanors because it costs too much money and we have to pay a booking fee. So from now on, all misdemeanors, we don't care what the judge says, and this happens all the time, jurisdictions will pass things saying, we ain't arresting misdemeanors because it costs too much to book them and process them, and then the jail just lets them out. So why are we wasting money to put them in jail so they can give them a ticket? We'll give them a ticket when we see them without spending money to book them. I think that's smart policy. I don't have a problem with that. But a lot of people don't understand how that works.
Now, yeah, he has a warrant out for his arrest. He's not welcome in my home until he gets that taken care of.
Okay.
Okay.
You can't do that.
Yes, I can.
Okay, here's where you get these lawyers. She got her degree at Walmart, wherever else she got it from. Yes, I can. No, you can't. And then you get into an argument. And I hated arguing with ignorance because you just can't win. At the end, you both look stupid. So there's really no point arguing with ignorance. And the cop kind of cuts her off and says, let me tell you. And he tries to explain it to her.
He's a fugitive. Yes, I can.
You can Listen,
Yes, I
listen.
can. What?
I listen to you.
Okay, what?
You can call us if he comes, but you cannot say you can't come in. And if you lock him out, he can kick your door to get in because he lives here.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you.
Okay, whoever taught this is wrong. The officer's description of the law is absolutely correct. So I agree with what the officer said, and I think he is correctly reporting the law. But, Rick, it says right here in print that it's not, so you must be wrong too. Okay, you big dummy.
Something. He may not kick my door.
Okay.
Okay?
If you lock him out, he can.
Okay, I didn't lock him out. My sister did. If he is being a...
Does that really matter who locked him out? The cop's saying you can't lock him out, and if you lock him out, he can kick the door because you can't be charged with damaging your own property. And if you're authorized to be in there, it'll lock you out. Now, if you are drunk and you come back and she says she's scared, then we can do something. If he kicks the door and does damage and you want him to pay for it because he ain't paying, now we can take a report on that. But you have to go through this process, and what he's trying to tell her is you just can't arbitrarily go get out of my house, I'm locking you out for 2 days. Because every cop knows 2 days later, you're going to be hugging him saying he's your son and letting him back in. Or you're going to be showing up at the drive-by shooting when he's on the street crying, my baby, how could you kill him? You cops are mean. I loved him. And it'll never come out that you kicked him out and now you're crying on the street and you want to sue everybody and get rich. Rick, you can't say that. That's me. Well, I just did say it, and it's freaking true.
Havoc? Well, my sister is here babysitting my children. He is not welcome here.
She needs to call us. You can't kick
Oh,
him
we
out.
did call you. We did call. We did a well check. They came.
What he's not telling, see, she said we called him and they didn't do nothing. Because he's not telling her, if you call us, we can't do anything. If he's in his house, he's allowed to be there. If you call us, this is what we're going to tell you. He's not telling her how to get a restraining order. She's scared, but...
The officer came in. You can check that.
Okay.
The officer came and did that. He hasn't been home since until today.
Okay.
Today he was locked out again, and the reason that he was locked out was because I wasn't home. When I'm home, then he can come.
That's not how
Okay,
this works.
too bad, so sad. Bye.
No, that's...
Okay. Now, see, I'd have just laughed at her if she said that. Too bad, so sad. I'd be like, all right, I'll clear the call. Look, she didn't want to hear me. I told her she can't kick him out. When he comes back, when the son comes back to the house and knocks on the door and they won't let him in, tell him to call and I'll come back. And I'll make her let her let him in. But, I mean, this cop gets pissy and he gets personal. And what does he do? He reacts and he reaches in that door and he grabs her and tries to follow her in the house. He can't do that.
That's not how
Okay,
this works.
too bad, so sad. Bye.
No, that's not how... Ma'am, listen. That is
You-
not...
He forced the door open. When he reached in and pushed that door, he broke the barrier. And that barrier is taught in the academy. That is sanctuary. You cannot breach that barrier. I can't stick my finger through it. I can't stick my baton through it. I can't fire a bullet through it. The barrier of a door is your house, your home, your castle, and government is not allowed to breach that unless I have a consent, warrant, or exigency. Period. No ifs, ands, buts, or coconuts.
You need to leave out of my house.
Stop.
I am. You do not have...
Okay, I got no problem with her pushing him out of the house. He unlawfully entered. He created the exigency. He created the assault on him by going in. So he had no right to be there. She pushed him out. Now, normally, if you put your hands on a cop, you're going to lose 99.999% of the time. That's just the way it is. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm telling you the facts. You're going to lose. And they're going to make you out to be the bad guy. And they're going to charge you with 14 different charges. And they're going to get you to plead to some bullshit probation so they can hold that over your head. And then when you violate probation, then they're going to slam you with that. Even though you were right when the first incident, you should have never been on probation. So this girl put her hands on him. Normally she loses. Luckily, the sergeant showed up and cut her loose. And he probably did the right thing. She still probably could have sued, and I don't know if she did.
Any permission to go into my
Stop.
house? You have no permission
Stop.
to go into my house.
That's really for you.
She is correct. He had no permission.
Can you please let me go?
No, because now you're
Close
under
that
arrest.
door. Close that door. What am I under arrest
Stop.
for?
You're under... Because you just shoved me.
I did not shove you.
So, in this cop's mind, here's how the law works. I go running into people's houses for no reason, and when they try to get me to leave, I arrest them for putting their hands on me. In a cop's mind, he thinks that's okay. And you know what? I bet you 90% of the cops out there today think that's okay. Cops have become tyrannical freaking egomaniacs that don't give a shit about the citizenry or the freaking Constitution, and they are running around like rogue freaking gang members. And that's a problem.
I told you
It's
to
on
get out
video.
of my house. I told you to get...
It's on video.
You have no right to come into my home.
It's on video.
Comb my hair.
It is on video, and she's right. You had no right to go in her freaking house.
You have no right to come into my home. You have absolutely no right to come into my home.
That's really forth if you want to custody.
Get me out of these cuffs.
No, you're going to jail.
I am not going to
You
jail.
are.
I like her persistency. Too bad, so sad. I go in my house. He pulls you out of handcuffs. Get these handcuffs off of me. No. You're going to jail. No, I'm not. I guess she just believes that she keeps saying it ain't going to happen. It won't happen. Now, luckily, the sergeant lets her go, but she still got a ride somewhere. She was still handcuffed, and she was still dragged somewhere against her will. Was she kidnapped? Yes. This is a technical kidnapping. The guy was unlawfully doing this. Is a cop going to get charged? Of course not.
You are going to jail.
Get me out of
Stop.
this house. Brina! Open the door, Brina! And get this all on video. Brina! Get this...
Thank God there was video, or we'd have never known that he wrote. He just said he tried to stop her and she pushed through him to get in the house.
Stop. Stop pulling away from me.
I'm not pulling away from you.
Good for the supervisor. This happened in Colorado. I don't know where. Let me see if it says it. No, it just says police force. All right. Hopefully you got something out of it on tenant landlord issues, residency, restraining orders, fear, the bury your house. I tried to cover a lot of little topics there. I know it was 21 minutes, but hey, I'm trying to teach you big dummies. Don't come here crying about how long I talk. All right. Well, then don't forget to like my damn video, you big... Most people out here, if you really like the video, please like and subscribe. I ain't freaking begging your ass. Like the video and quit being a damn pussy. All right, well, then that there.